let's switch this up.
Hey guys, get ready with me while I tell you guys about the first time I ever snuck out. So I was 16, and it was just a random day. I remember I had just started talking to this, not just started talking to this boy, but me and him were maybe like talking for maybe like a few weeks, maybe a month, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just like platonic. It wasn't like anything like that. I remember one day posting a picture of my little sister's birthday, and it was in our neighborhood, and he slid up on my story and was like, oh, like, I recognize that neighborhood. Come to find out, we lived in the same neighborhood, literally like right across the street from each other. I'm pretty sure he asked me if I like ever snuck out or anything, because I guess he would sneak out and like graffiti stuff and just mark things. He was really into art. And I was like, I never snuck out before. I'm too scared. Anyways, one night we were texting and he was like, we should just sneak out. And this was gonna be our first time ever hanging out, like seeing each other. So I was like, okay. I didn't actually just say okay. I was just telling him a bunch of like what if this happened, what if that happened. I was scared. And the meetup spot, y'all, he wanted to go to like this little lake. He screenshotted the map and there was a lake by our houses, and I was like, why? And it was by a cemetery. I said, why would I go by a cemetery with you? I don't know you. Anyways, but there is also a park like literally like right down the street. So basically we planned to go to that park, right? And when the day came, nighttime came, y'all, I was scared. So first of all, what went wrong was my mom and my dad were fighting, and so that meant they were up later than usual. And of course I was like defending my mom. I was just like talking to my mom, letting her get all her like emotions out. So I was talking to her, and mind you, it was like probably like 12 or 1, and he was texting me. He was like, yo, like, what's happening, when are we gonna go, you know? Mind you, I was also wearing shoes and a sweater at the time. Like, I never wore that really inside, like at least shoes, I wouldn't really wear them inside the house. So I don't know how my mom didn't notice. But anyways, my parents ended up going to their room, so I'm sitting on the couch and I was just waiting to hear for like no sounds at all. And I was like texting him. I think I looked out the door a couple of times and I seen him down the street, bruh. I kept getting scared, but he was just like, come on, just do it, like YOLO, you know what I mean? And finally, like, I went out and I met up with him. And I mean, I don't really remember talking to him, honestly. Like, I remember telling him, like, bro, I'm hella nervous right now. And he was like, it's fine, like, what would your mom do? And I was like, I don't know, beat my ass. So I remember I had like sprinklers with me. Like, I wanted to bring stuff so we can actually do, so it's not hella awkward. And we went to the park, right? And we were on the swings. We were just like kind of barely talking. It was low-key kind of awkward. Was not worth it. And then like right after we were done lighting our sparklers, I remember getting a call from my mom. And I was like, bruh, like I knew this was gonna happen. So I walked away from him. I answered the phone and my mom was like, where are you? Where are you? Like, tell me right now. And I was like, I was thinking of a lie, and I was like, I just went on a walk. And she was like, really, Mariah? A walk at 2 in the because at this point it was later. And I was like, yeah, like I just like my head hurt. I just wanted fresh air. And she was like, why does your phone, I forgot she had my location. She was like, why does your phone say you're at the park? And I was like, I don't know, I'm right here. Anyways, we lived by these like apartments, and she was waiting for me. So I told the boy, I was like, dude, just wait here. I don't want my mom to see you, especially because we're neighbors and I have a crazy older brother. Anyways, once I like see my mom, bruh, she literally pulled me by my hair, like not hella hard, thank goodness. I don't know, I can't remember if she like slapped me or not, but bruh, I was so scared. Anyways, we go back to my house and he was like right behind me. He didn't even listen to me. And she took my phone, right? And like it wasn't anything bad because it wasn't anything like that, so she didn't find anything except the memes we would share, bruh. The memes were bad, I'm not gonna lie. And then she made my little brother sleep with me, but I ended up like sneaking my phone back and she didn't really do anything about it. I remember too like telling him I was getting caught, and he was like, dude, just tell her I'm gay. So I literally told her that, and she was like, F off, like I don't like you. I'm really lucky that my mom isn't too strict with me because a lot more could have been done to me. But honestly, if you guys take anything out from this, like, do not do what I did. A lot of people sneak out at one point in their lives, but please Don't be like me and let it be the first time you're meeting someone. Like, that was dangerous. Please, like, at least know the person, you know? Know they're real, like, know they're who you're talking to. And don't just, like, sneak out and meet up with them. Like, do not do that, y'all. This is the finished look, y'all. Thank you for watching. Hey, y'all. Get ready with me while I tell another story time. This one is really embarrassing. Low-key gives me PTSD. I'm just kidding, but, like, it made me cry. So I was like 13 at the time this all happened, and I was talking to this boy from Snapchat. Bruh, I was just like living life. My friend actually set us up together from an anonymous poll. She like told him I liked him and I didn't even know who he was, and from there we started talking. Anyways, I'm pretty sure this situation happened after we had our little first like date together. It wasn't really a date, it was hella awkward. We went to the movies together and like we didn't say one word. Anyways, one day I was with my cousin, we're just hanging out, and I get a text from him, and he was like, Mariah, my dad caught me vaping, like I need somewhere to go, he's kicking me out. So he was like, can you ask your mom if I can stay? And so I asked her, because my mom is the type of person who will let anyone stay over, like just so they will have somewhere safe, you know? I forgot to mention something really important. My mom had taken my phone away. So I was texting him through Snapchat off of my cousin's phone. So then I was just like, yeah, my mom said no. So he was like, dude, I'll literally sneak in. I'll sleep in your brother's closet. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. So after I tell him no, he was just telling me that he was walking and that he's like close to my house, which I don't even remember telling him where I live. I remember like being so shocked. I was like, dude, like what's happening? I can't help him, you know? And I was so shy. I was like, bro, he's really coming right now? I looked so crazy that I literally started getting ready. I put my hair in a ponytail and everything. So while I'm getting ready, I'm like making sure my mom doesn't know what I'm doing, right? So I'm trying to look where my mom is. She's nowhere to be found. And I go in her room and I'm asking my little siblings, I'm like, hey, where's mom? And they're like, oh, she's in the shower. And I was like, the shower's not even on. And then my older cousin was also over at the time. I noticed that she was gone as well. So my mom and my older cousin were missing. I was so used to getting my phone taken that I literally got it back because like I always knew my mom's hiding spots. Like I would go through everything to find my phone. So eventually I got my phone back, and he's saying that he's like at my house and he's by like these mailboxes, and the mailboxes are across the street from my house. I feel so bad for my cousin because she was just like at my house and then all of this happened. So anyways, me and my cousin go out the house and I'm like shaking because I'm like, I can't even do anything to help him. My mom doesn't want him in the house. Like, what am I gonna do? So me and my cousin, like, I'm pretty sure we were starting to cross the street and I noticed like someone looking out behind the mailbox, and I was like, he has his hoodie on and like, why is he laughing? So we get a little bit closer to the mailbox and I just hear like girl laughs. Right when I heard those laughs, I already knew, like I didn't even have to walk all the way to the mailbox to know that my mom and my cousin were playing a prank on me. And right like in that moment, like I just start walking back home and I just start crying. I was like low-key like happy to hang out with him, to see him and everything like that. And to know it was just like my mom and my cousin, like I was so let down. And I was just like, why and how would they do this to me? Like my mom doesn't know him. So once we get back to the house, I text him and I was like, oh, why would you do this to me? Like what even happened? And I guess what happened was my mom had took my phone, right? And from there she FaceTimed him and he didn't answer, and so she just started blowing him up, and finally he answered. And my mom was like, hey, like I have Mariah's phone, I wanted like do a prank on her or something like that. And he was like, what? He was telling her no at first, but then she kept like saying, come on, like just do it. So he ended up agreeing, and the prank was they're just gonna see what I did to help him, I guess. Like she wanted to know what I would do in that situation. And I was low-key like salty at him. I was like, why would you like do that? And he was like, dude, she wouldn't leave me alone. So then my mom comes back home and she's like, you were just gonna let a boy into the house without asking me? I was like, first of all, I literally asked you and you said no. And I was just gonna like hang out with him. Like I wasn't gonna do anything. She's like, yeah, sure, you're just gonna hang out with him. I was like, bruh, I literally have my cousin with me. Like, what am I gonna do? Anyways, me and the boy stopped talking not too long after that. And then he got with this girl who he told me he hated and would talk so much shit about. Guys, if he does that to you, do not trust him. Anyways, thank you for watching.
This is the story of how I got scammed by a sugar daddy. I just want to preface that I was in college when this went down. I am no longer this dumb. So I used to work at a small bakery cafe. I used to work as a waitress in a small bakery cafe. And of course, over time, you start to see a lot of regulars come in and you develop like a friendly banter with them. So I started to notice that this older man, like maybe in his 60s, started to frequent my shift a lot. Only mine. Let's call him Joe. And of course, your girl liked her tips, so if Joe would start a conversation with me, I would participate. But then after a few shifts like this, I started noticing that the tips were getting bigger and bigger. He would always want to give me the checkbook directly, like to look me in my face and know that it was from him. So one day, he's sitting completely alone. I finished serving him, and he had left me a $50 tip. He would start coming in during my shift and only ask for me. And I felt like maybe it was for a specific reason, but you know, like I'm a broke college girl, I'm loving it. If somebody got to his table first, he would literally ask them to switch with me. Coincidentally, I was dating someone at the time and he was not happy about this. So Joe knew that I wanted a job, particularly in an office setting, because he had asked me many times about it. So Joe comes in one day and he's like, my friends are opening up a real estate company in the area and they need a receptionist. I would love to get you the job. So of course, I'm like, hell yes. So he says, okay, take my number and I'll take yours. I'll let you know all the information. Clearly, my first mistake, but trust me, I make so many more. Go to part 2. I got scammed by a sugar daddy, part 2. So I get a text from him asking to meet up to talk about the position. Meet up? Why? And yeah, I'm really weirded out, but at the same time, I've been in this job since high school. I want out. So anything that's gonna get me there, I'm gonna look into it. But I'm not completely stupid. I'm pretty dumb, but I'm not a total idiot. So the person that I was dating at the time was gonna be like in the background, like across the street while I met up with this man. So meetup day comes and it's broad daylight at a coffee shop across from my job. So Joe pays for my coffee, we get to talking, and then he hands me an envelope. And while he's handing it to me, he says, this is because I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work. You've been so amazing, and he's just going on and on. So after a while, I'm like, okay, so are we gonna talk about the job? And he's like stalling. It's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Don't worry, don't worry. Like, it's not gonna be started for a long time. They gotta build the building, but I'll let you know. Why on earth am I here then? So then he starts talking about how he is so super into photography. And I'm like, okay, cool. He takes out his phone to show me pictures that he's taken himself. And I am like, there's no way that this is happening right now. It was so blatantly obvious that these pictures were taken straight off of Google Images from like the 80s, because every single one was so pixelated. He like literally screenshotted them. That's not even the weird part. So I'm like kind of going along with it. I'm trying so hard not to bust out laughing. So I'm like, wow, these are awesome. These are so cool. But I can't help but notice they all have a common theme. Of course, they are all women, and every single woman has their hands like in a position like on their face, near their face. I could tell it was like a thing for him. So he's like, yeah, I would love if you could like model for me. Nothing weird, nothing weird. You just made it really weird. But he just keeps repeating, nothing weird, nothing weird. So at this point, I'm ready to get the hell up out of there. Then he goes, I can pay you $1,000. You could even bring a friend. Again, nothing weird. This is weird. So I opened the envelope. In there is more money than he's ever tipped me. And then, of course, it's even more complicated. Go to part 3. I was scammed by a sugar daddy. Part 3. So I keep going to work as usual, but I just so happen to take a shift that I don't normally work. Tell me why. Joe is there with a woman who I find out from my coworkers is his wife. He's being so affectionate with her. He's holding her hand, kissing it, reaching over, laughing. And of course, he sees me and pays me no mind. So I'm back to my regular shifts, and he's there one day and he asks me what shifts I usually work. And I tell him because a girl gotta make her coin. But now I've figured out that there is no job. Months go by and I do not see him. So he comes in one day with a friend who just so happened to be a man. Everything's totally normal, nothing weird, no pun intended. And they leave. About like an hour or two later, he comes back completely alone. He comes over to me and he's like, there's something I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, okay. He has like really nervous energy. So he starts off by saying, you and I are friends, right? Like we're friends, we're cool. And I'm like, yeah, totally. So he's like, I just wanted to tell you about this cool thing I've been doing lately. I have this friend and she does dance recitals. Amazing. Her and I are like really good friends. And then he pulls out his phone to show me a picture of her. The picture, I kid you not, is of a young blonde girl in like her 20s. And he's behind her like sensually, like holding her. And then he swipes while he's explaining, and it's of her sitting on his lap. The girl was young enough to be his daughter. Reminder, he's married. He's like, yeah, she does it for me. For you? And he goes on. He's like, I can pay you $3,000 cash. I'm sorry, what? And now, like, I feel like he felt my energy shift. So he's like, but like, don't tell my wife. Don't tell my wife. Like, she's really weird about these things. She doesn't understand. She gets a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm like, and so for those of you wondering why I did not tell the wife, I thought about it. Trust me. But I was not in a position to lose my job. And I would have. But I so wish that I had. Because then I get a text message from one of my best friends who also works there saying this. After he made that offer, I never saw him again. Thank God I don't work there anymore. But I do see him around from time to time, so best believe if I ever run into his wife, I'm spilling the beans. My stalker is now in jail for unaliving someone. And now that he's in jail, I feel safer telling my story. Let's bring it back. I have actually known this man and his family since I was a little girl. Let's call him Freddie. So Freddie was a grown man who was still living with his parents. I want to say he was probably like in his 20s or 30s when I was like a child. They lived in the apartment 2 doors down from ours. And so every time that we would see Freddie, he would always make it a point to say hi to my mom. We would joke, my mom, me and my sister, that Freddie had like a little crush on her because we would be walking as a whole family, even my dad there, and he would only say hi to her. But the whole family felt like relatively comfortable. We knew that he was like maybe a little bit off, but it was fine. So his father unfortunately ends up passing away. He was like sick, so it wasn't unexpected. So now it's just him and his mom. So we start like seeing the police show up like every couple of days to that apartment. So much so that it got to the point where they were just like kind of making like weekly visits to see if everything was okay. And once in a while I would show up to my house and there would be like detective cars like parked outside like unmarked, just watching it. They knew him by name. Boom, 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 Freddie, open up the door. Like, we're just here to check. Freddie, open up the door. Like, they was like buddies at that point. And we would hear them consistently screaming at each other. And it just got so much worse as time went on. We end up finding out Freddie is a diagnosed schizophrenic, which is not bad in itself. But he was always like really good on his medications. Everything was fine. We never saw problems until he decided to go off, which was of course around the time where the police would be showing up to this apartment. So now I'm in my 20s. The mom is like pretty sickly and they're fighting quite a lot. We end up finding out, I'm not even sure who from, he was like physically abusing the mom. This continues to go on. And around this time is the time where he would start shifting his focus from my mom to me. It started off like pretty innocent. He would just see me and say like, hi Kayla, and sometimes start like a little conversation. But then I started to see him like a lot more than usual. In these conversations, he would always tell me how beautiful I was, how stunning I was, and how much I looked like his wife. Who's his wife, you may ask? In Freddie's mind, he was married to J-Lo. Now, in these little hallway conversations that he would stop and have with me, he would tell me that he knew JLo from the Bronx when she was, it's funny now because of all the memes. They were like dating and they wanted to get married, but it just didn't work out because she got famous. He bought her a ring and that he proposed to her. Obviously, I knew he wasn't on his medication, so I just like, you know, I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like I had no idea. I had to just play that part and keep myself safe. But over time, he continued and continued telling me, you look exactly like my wife. You remind me of her. And so I'm like, fuck, this is about to get bad. Go to part 2. My stalker unalived someone, part 2. So this would continue every single time I saw him, which was getting to the point where it was like every single day. Just seeing him in the hallway escalated to him knocking on my door at random points in the day to come see me. There was one particular time where I was home with my grandma and her home attendant, and I hear her open the door and I hear Freddie's voice. She's like, no, she's not home. You need to get out of here. And so I'm a little bit confused. I'm like, you know, it's not a big deal. Like he knows where I live. He lives right in the other apartment. Like I'm just gonna go say hi to appease him. We will find out why she said that in a little while. Obviously he was doing that stuff to his mom, so I know to be wary. As a woman, I felt like I kind of had to play it smart. The man knows my apartment number, for crying out loud. So he pulls up a picture of this really well-known mansion in our area. And he starts telling me that he's gonna buy it. And I'm like, that's really cool. Like, and mind you, our apartment's like teeny tiny New York City apartments. I'm like, what kind of money you got? But anyway, so he starts telling me, yeah, I'm gonna buy it like for you and my son and my wife, and we can all live there together. Mind you, he's showing me the picture of this well-known mansion on Google Images. And so I'm like trying to laugh it off because now I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm scared. And in this conversation, again, he's consistently telling me how much I look like his wife, JLo, Miss Jenny from the block. So he's starting to get like more and more in depth about his son. So he tells me his son's name. It's Freddie. Let's go over this. I look like his wife, JLo, and his son's name is Freddie. And as he's talking, he's using the position of his wife, JLo, and myself interchangeably, as well as himself and his son Freddie and Freddie. He's using their positions interchangeably as well. And so finally I get him to leave. I close the door and I immediately tell my family. So my family's not happy. My dad's pissed. And so they end up talking to my grandmother's home attendant. And she tells them that the reason that she said no is because he does that every single day. He shows up to my apartment every single day, knocks on the door and asks for me. And so obviously the home attendant is gonna tell him, hell no, every time. I didn't know that. So I'm not sure how long passes in between these two instances. Me and my family are sitting in my living room and we hear the loudest bang on our door. It's 11 o'clock at night. My dad gets up, he's like, everybody stay here, I'm gonna go check. He looks through the peephole and he decides to open the door. We're like, what the hell? It's Freddie. He's asking for me at 11 o'clock at night. And my dad's like, stay over there. So basically, he's telling my dad the same thing that he told me about this house. Now he's added in the point that he is actually a millionaire, and that if I were to marry his son, who is also Freddie, I would never have to worry about anything. I wouldn't have to work, just like his wife, JLo. I would be set for life and he's gonna take care of me. I mean, his son is gonna take care of me. And so my dad is like, listen, Freddie, you need to go home. This has to stop. Freddie takes it well. Now it's to the point where gifts start to show up at my house. I come home to 2 dozen roses in a vase with a teddy bear on it. I'm like, what's going on? The next time I get a gift, it's a dozen donuts, just because. So these interactions continue to happen. And it's starting to get to the point where it's way more concerning than it's ever been. When I would see him out, he would be like, hi Kayla, say hello to me, try to start the conversation about his wife JLo, aka me. But then there was one night where I saw him and he was beeline walking. Pretty much nothing behind his eyes, completely straight face, mouth even like kind of like slightly open, like he was not there. Walked directly past me, didn't even look in my direction. At this point is where it starts to get really bad. My stalker unalived someone, part 3. So after this, I do my very best at all costs to avoid this man. Now I'm freaked the fuck out. My parents are legitimately scared for my safety because we know everything that's going on in his home. However, if they see him or if I see him, we try to keep it quick, but we're still very friendly and nice. There's a point where my dad walks in on him in the hallway, face completely down, screaming. He's wailing. We know that these are a lot of mental health issues that he's having. And clearly the parents were not well equipped to continue to deal with this, especially that the mom was sick and dealing with this abuse. So my dad tries to talk him down a little bit from whatever it was that he was screaming and wailing about. And eventually he does. Whenever I go out, I have to like let my guy friends know, like, listen, can you please bring me upstairs? You know, this is what's going on. And we were just on the lookout for anything that may be an unsafe situation. A decent amount of time has passed where I haven't really seen too much of him, and it starts to become a thing that he's like actually missing. I come home one day and there's a coroner's van outside my apartment building. I walk in the door and I see them bringing out you know what. I'm stunned, but I get upstairs and guess whose door is wide open with police and a medical team? Freddie's door. It was the person who was sadly taken away in the van, his mother. So at this point, everybody's minds are kind of wondering, could this have been him? Fortunately, it was determined that she had passed from natural causes. She was old and sick. However, Freddie is still missing. We have no clue where he is. For weeks. I bet you're asking, so who was the person that he unalived? Well, my mom tells me that she stopped in the pizza store next to our house to get a slice of pizza, and that the pizza guy started to tell her how he received a call from a prison in a different state, I won't say where, from Freddie. Freddie used his prison phone call to call the pizza guy and explain why he was in jail. I won't get into the full details of how this person was unalived. Truthfully, don't have all the information, but apparently it was some sort of accident. At the end of the day, it really is a sad story, but it was genuinely pretty scary for me and my family at the time. I truly hope that he does get the help that he needs. But yeah, everybody stay safe out there. My stalker unalived someone, part 4, some extra details. So I got a lot of comments asking me, why didn't you go to the police? Girl, why don't you call the cops? It was definitely a topic of conversation in my family whether or not we should get the police involved. But at the end of the day, he really wasn't doing anything illegal. Like, yeah, I guess you could say like stalking and harassment is illegal, but at the same time, this is New York City, Brooklyn, New York. NYPD do not care. They will stand around and that's all they do. They weren't even helping or doing much when he was abusing his mother. Why would they care that he's knocking on my door at 11 p.m.? When the abuse would happen, the mother would call the cops. They would come get him, arrest him for like a couple hours, maybe overnight if she was lucky, and then he was released the next day. Some people were confused on what they brought out of the apartment. It was an unalived, no longer living person. That was his mother. And also to clarify, there was no son. He didn't exist. In his mind, I was his wife, J-Lo. I am J-Lo. And he was the son. So when he would say, I want you to marry my son, you should be dating my son, he meant himself. There was also a time where he told me that he saw me with some guy walking in the stairwell, and that this guy was yelling at me, screaming at me in the hallway, and that we were fighting, and that this guy was a total loser, and that I should be with his son instead. Which is not true. I was single. So again, when he's telling me this, I kind of just have to nod along and like play yes man. In that same conversation, he also told me that my friends were doing in the stairs, like share. I'm just kidding. I think it's important to treat people with grace. To a certain extent, of course, you know, you still have to look out for your safety, and I feel like I did that. I feel like my family did that very well. There was also a couple times where he saw my little sister, who was 15 or 16 at the time, waiting for the bus, and he like refused to let her take the bus. Like he was trying to give her money so that she could take a cab, which by itself is not bad. Knowing what we knew, it was like, stay away from her. And she was pretty creeped out too. Like she went and she told my mom, and there was one time where he was like insisting that she take the money, that she kind of just had to take it so that he would like leave her alone. And my mom actually had to go return it to him and ask him not to do that anymore. I will say a little bit more about the person that he actually unalived. As we know, he called the pizza guy. The story goes, he was apparently having some sort of break again. Somehow, we don't know, he got access to a car, which is weird because he's never owned a car, but he was driving one, speeding like crazy. I believe it ended up in some sort of police chase. He causes an accident and the person ends up passing away. This happened like a good 6 states away. Nobody knows how he got there. That's honestly all the information I have. Yeah, that's the end for this one. Does anybody want to hear about how I got scammed by a sugar daddy?